Welcome to episode 31 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. Let's talk current events. The pandemic is still the huge issue of the day. Everyone is dealing with it the best they can. The problem is that the best for some people is seriously substandard. As always, we struggle to reconcile those who do the right thing with those who do what endangers others. We have talked in previous episodes about how we need to guard against weighing in on issues in a manner that may effectively drag us backwards in our spiritual awareness progression. Here's a story in the news that struck that chord for me. For some reason, Dr. Drew found it necessary to repeatedly spout a contrarian view of the relative severity of the COVID-19 virus. That mystified me. I can't imagine what his motivation was to do so. The fact that he has a doctor in front of his name leads some people to adopt his point of view, though it ran contrary to established facts. In video after video, he smugly told people that it was no big deal. Many who have acted on misinformation have endangered themselves and others, and many have died due to that carelessness. To speak up in a manner that dismisses this medical emergency is just plain reckless. What if we assume in every situation that we might not know the truth? Shouldn't we err on the side of caution instead of the side of recklessness? When other people's lives hang in the balance, shouldn't we think first and foremost of how our error could play out in their lives? And what exactly is it enhancing in yours to play that role? Advancing information that results in the harm of others is on your soul. It is a choice that you will have to answer for. That is a choice that will drag you backwards. Please try to think 3 steps ahead and figure out if you may be doing harm before you say anything. This is the higher level choice, especially if you have a doctor in front of your name. In another example of recklessness, there are the houses of worship that are encouraging their flock to come together for church services. You might think that this is a victimless crime because they will endanger each other. But these people will take the virus from the manufactured hotspot out into the world and also into the hospital where they endanger those we rely on to try to save us. This is an act that they explain away by saying that they have no concerns because they are protected by God. Or in one video I saw, they were covered in the blood of Jesus, which is what would keep them from getting the virus. The Creator is not a tool you can use to avoid reality. The Creator is the source of reality. The Creator is the source of science. The Creator's role is not to help you avoid the playing out of scientific principles. The Creator gave you a brain, the ability to reason, and the free will to choose to honor what is. It is abundantly clear at this point that the virus does not respond to magical thinking. We have been given free will, unlimited information, and brilliant minds to reverse the fixes we get ourselves in. But that won't happen if people can't acknowledge their responsibility and if they cannot acknowledge the truth about what is actually happening. I understand that it is deeply uncomfortable to dwell in the unknown. None of us know what tomorrow will bring, let alone next week or next year. we don't know how the story will play out. That fact has been true every day of your life, and it will continue to be true. We don't get to know the future. We must use the best principles we have to face each new challenge and set of facts as they are revealed to us. We have used that skill every day so far, and here you are. You just need to keep making peace with the unknown. To reject the reality that scientific principles will play out the way they are designed to play out is to discredit and disregard the Creator. You don't get to pick and choose. This is the system, and we must play by its rules. We don't get to construct the world in which we feel safer. We must deal with the world as it has been designed. In doing so, we are respecting the Creator and being the students we came here to be. The mystical is not in opposition to reality or a replacement for reality. It is an enhancement to reality. The mystical helps us see that which is not apparent to the naked eye. But in embracing this concept, we do not have the authority to reject what is seen by our naked eyes. We must embrace the entire truth. This is one of the ways we get in trouble when we split our world into science versus religion. First off, I don't use the term religion in the context of explaining the world. I use the term mystical because religion is not the same thing as the mystical. The mystical is everything that is not apparent to our five senses, everything that is not obvious to the intellect. It is everything we can employ that exists beyond the obvious limitations in this school we are attending. Religion is man's way of addressing our inner longing for the mystical. Some of it started out sincere, but was corrupted by the frailties that are inherent to the human experience. Some started from a place of cynicism, knowing how easily people can be manipulated and separated from their money if they think you have some special ability to connect them to their Creator. Religion is not the Creator. Only the Creator is the Creator. No person on this planet has more access to the Creator than you do. Once you fully understand that, you can embark on a whole new relationship with your source, one that is no longer dependent upon or open to the judgment of others. It is the most highly personal relationship you can have, and the most rewarding. Separating the two concepts, science and religion, leads many people to believe it is a binary choice. Either I believe in science, as I see physical evidence that supports our level of understanding, or I believe in religion, which often advances the notion that you shouldn't believe what you see with your own eyes, but should believe what members of the clergy tell you. But science is nothing more or less than the thinking of the Creator in action. It is a set of laws and principles set in motion. It is the structure of the school we are in, and it is our responsibility to both understand and to honor those laws and principles. You can't wish your way out of a pandemic. You can't inoculate yourself by thinking that you have a relationship with your Creator that others don't. You are loved every bit as much, but not 1 ounce more. Your Creator is not playing a sadistic game of schoolyard sports where only certain people are being picked for a team. The people who will survive this pandemic are, for the most part, those who respect the rules of the game and act accordingly. The sad thing is that there will be many who die from the ignorance of others who have no respect. But we know this. There are always going to be low-level people who will not be the least bit concerned with the outcome for others. Tragically, we are even being led by some people who fit into that category. So all we can do is the best that we can. All we can do is stay in the light at every opportunity and find new ways to support one another. We will respect the science. We will have faith in the system and the creator of that system. In the revolution, we will work to return to a state of wholeness where we no longer entertain the divisions that hold us back from being and doing everything that is possible. We will work to develop and defend the full identity that each and every one of us is here to nurture. Once you restore yourself to wholeness, you won't be looking for your identity outside of yourself, which makes you no longer a person who can be manipulated into being less than you can be. It will make it impossible for anyone else to use you to advance their agenda in a way that dishonors you and postpones the healing. We will heal. It's at times like this that I really miss reading a physical newspaper. For those of you who never lived in the times where this was a cornerstone of life, let me explain. We used to get a newspaper delivered once a day. The entire family would read the newspaper because it had sections that would appeal to each and every person's interests. You had the local news, the national news, the international news. You had stories that addressed business, home and garden, entertainment, sports. Children began their relationship with the daily newspaper through the comic strips. Everyone knew what was happening in their community as a whole, as well as what was happening to the people. You saw the record of their births, their marriages, their divorces, and their deaths. The entirety of your newspaper told you what you needed to know about the world around you. There were investigative pieces, meticulously researched and verified before being printed. There were people's opinions, which you saw through the letters they wrote to the newspaper, or more often skipped over because you didn't care so much what random people thought. The placement of each story meant something. If it was above the fold of the paper, it was judged as being more important than those stories that fell below the fold. If it was in the front, that was more important than something that was in the back of the newspaper. There was no ominous music playing in the background or people with emotion dripping from their voices telling you any of these stories. There were no words that were screaming in all capitals or sentences that ended in exclamation points. In a business model that is very much unlike our current news, no one knew if you read any part of the paper. They only knew if you had a subscription. The fact that you got the paper was enough for businesses to advertise in the newspaper, though they had no idea whether or not you even looked at the ads. Simply getting a subscription was the entirety of your relationship with those who produced the paper. There was no clickbait. There was no need for salacious or misleading leads to stories because they didn't really care whether you read it. They only cared that you subscribed. The pressure and heightened experience did not exist. It was a calm and soothing process to get the news. The newspaper was also something you looked at once a day. You picked it up, turned to what interested you, read it, and you were done. It was full of facts with a small smattering of opinions. Now the news we get is short on facts and overrun with opinions. The opinions predictable based on which TV station or online outlet you use to access the news. Now news is demanding our attention in every waking hour. We have access from our pocket, where we check our phones constantly to see what the next awful thing is that we need to obsess about. The stories are of the moment, meaning that some of them don't ultimately shake out to be what you thought. But this is rarely addressed because we are on to the next thing. Retractions are a thing of the past. It feels like it's your responsibility to turn the television news on, and that has become an emotional experience that alters our moods and perceptions in a way that a newspaper never did. With a newspaper, you could either start your day with a cup of coffee, or you could end your day with a glass of wine and your newspaper, and once you were done with what you wanted to read, you went on to other activities. You were done. You had done the news. You were on to other parts of your life that we now don't have time for. You didn't get stressed out and run back to the paper to check it time and time again to see if it had gotten worse. I don't remember anyone having to moderate their time reading the paper to save their sanity. Our constant checking of the news has become an action that is triggered by anxiety, but it is usually a choice that leaves us feeling even more anxious. It keeps us in this loop of anxiety. Now, with the news on our phones, we take that device that we think of as a lifeline and allow it to drag us underwater as we obsess about everything that is happening in every corner of the world. Do we really need to hear about every twist and turn as they happen throughout the day? Are we driving ourselves insane with information overload? It is imperative that we stay informed, especially since our country is under siege. But we need to sort out what is truly necessary for our well-being and what is overkill and self-destructive. We need to really look at the ways we consume current events and determine if we are getting it in the best form possible. You get to decide how your day-to-day life plays out. You get to decide what is protecting and informing you, and the manner in which it is most helpful and least destructive to your peace of mind. We are in this for the long haul, so we must be self-protective. We need you in the game. The virus needs our bodies to move, replicate, and spread. If we don't participate, it's done. Stay home. When you see crowds gathering, they are working for the virus and making the time we need to stay home longer. Don't do the virus's dirty work. This can all get figured out. We just need to stay in the game. We can work it all out on the other side, but only if we are still here. We must stay alive to apply what we know to the new world that we will inhabit once this is over. We have so many brilliant people who, if listened to, can find and develop solutions. We just need to slow it down by staying away from each other while they do their work. We need to be open to what the solutions will be and drop our very human insistence that nothing ever change. We need things to change. This is the time. Thanks for being part of the revolution. Please tell others who you think may want to be a part of it too. Until next week, breathe slowly. Pay attention to your feelings. Be gentle with yourself and others, and make peace with what is. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Stay strong, and most of all, stay safe.